Yali Mother friends, Yali Mother Dr. Saiba, Yali Mother Yasmin Saiba, and friends, welcome to our Sunday morning session.
Yeah, Ali Mother.
Malali Mother.
So as you know, our topic today is importance of ilm in our tariqah, healing through knowledge. This is a really beautiful topic that I really am passionate about. Knowledge, as we know, is a process. And so as an artist, I try always to see how knowledge has an impact on the creative process as well. So who can tell me what this image says to you?
The fish is surrounded by water but is totally unaware of being surrounded by water.
Yes, absolutely correct. That's right.
The metal, how you can change it by, you can transform it by giving it heat from one state to another.
Absolutely correct. These are the realities and the beauties which we will touch upon in our slides further down. Thank you, Azmina. That was wonderful. Amazing guidance and amazing firmans of Khudawan Nur Maulana Shakir Mulasini Hazri Imam regarding knowledge, intelligence, knowledge society. However, I have selected these specifically because here Hazrima mentions the Shia Ismaili Tariqah. And I thought it was important because Imam is drawing our attention, right? That within Islam, at the level of hakikat, for us, peace comes first, and then it's wisdom and knowledge. He goes on to say that we do not reject knowledge, but we actually seek out knowledge. The reason that we do that is actually better to serve Allah's creation and to know Allah's creation. What does that mean, and why is knowledge a process? And then here in Chicago, Imam talks about how more and more countries are seeking to enter into the knowledge society of the 21st century. It would be nice for us to brainstorm what is the knowledge society of the 21st century and how is knowledge expanding exponentially, right? We are in the space age, we are in the age of virtual reality, spiritual machines, augmented reality, all those are the realities of the 21st century, right? But on the other hand, also we have chaos, man-made chaos, we have wars, we have natural disasters. All those events within this time also require knowledge and wisdom, right? So for example, greenhouse effect, how can we bring our knowledge to come about creative solutions that would not only help us get closer to understanding creation, but also help everybody else in the world, right? So we see that knowledge society expanding meaning because knowledge society refers to pluralistic society. Knowledge society refers to active participation of civil societies with the governments. So there is so many levels and so many layers even within the knowledge society, right? And look what Imam says here. I am saying that we should look forward and that keep in mind that knowledge society will require new areas of knowledge. What are these new knowledge areas that will be necessary for us to know and that will help us to move forward? Mola says, I, as your Imam, have a wish for you that you live not only in this time, but ahead of your time. Ahead of your time. See, he's repeating this. How can we live ahead of our time? What kind of knowledge do we need? How can we use our intelligence? And Imam gives the answer. So how do we do that? And he says, you do that by acquiring knowledge, by making sure that that knowledge is regularly updated, that as change occurs in societies around you, you are able to take advantage of those changes and indeed participate in them and perhaps lead in them, right? So acquire knowledge, update. Is it limited to just the physical secular knowledge? No. It also relates to knowledge of our faith, knowledge of Islam, knowledge of Ismailism. Because remember, as Ismailis, we are, though in minority, but we are in a very privileged position to help the ulama, to help the ummah to come up with better solutions and to expand their thinking and their understanding by giving them glimpses and giving them knowledge from Quranic tradition, from the Hadith, and also Imams' Farmans. So I think we will revisit and continue to revisit always that how do we keep on acquiring knowledge, which is not limited to secular, it's religious knowledge as well. It's understanding spirituality, it's understanding the merging point, which I believe is happening right now between the physical science and the spiritual science, all those beautiful changes that are happening. And Imam is saying that not only should we participate, but perhaps we should lead. So my question for us to explore is how can we lead, right? How can we lead in knowledge society throughout the whole world? Knowledge step by step. There's this beautiful hadith where Prophet says, God does not seize knowledge from the people by snatching it from them. He takes away the learned ones. Has anyone heard of a saying of Mullah Ali where he said, ask me before you lose me? It's a so profound saying, isn't it? That ask me before you lose me.
So he says in Arabic, Saluni, Saluni qabla an tadaftaduni. That ask me before you bury me.
Thank you. Why is Mullah Ali saying, ask me before you lose me, right? And again, this hadith prophet says that God does not seize knowledge from the people, but he does so by taking away the learned ones, right? Here we see that God says in 21:107, O Muhammad, we sent you not but as mercy for the worlds, right? So here we are looking at the fountainhead of knowledge that is mercy and wisdom for all the worlds. So what are these worlds, right? So here basically this means that according to divine will, the light of Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, rose from the world of Lahut, coming down to the world of Jabrut, Malakut, and Nasut. So Nasut we know is the world of humanity, world of people. The Malakut is the world, because see, Prophet is the mercy for all the worlds, right? Mullah Ali in his time, and today Hazar Imam. So what are these worlds again? We start with Nasut, the world of creation, and then Malakut, souls and angels, Jabrut, actual angels, and Lahut, divinity. So these are all the worlds. It's really, really important to remember knowledge and action are the wings which we always require to progress. And the saying of Mullah Ali, ask me before you lose me, is also that if we, through negligence, through laziness, through whatever other reasons, are not running, as the Quran says, fafiru, run or fly towards Allah, then we lose out and we reduce our life. Nothing is without mercy and knowledge. This is a beautiful Quranic verse 47, where everything is immersed in mercy and knowledge. And this is a Quranic principle. The spiritual bounties are in mercy, the intellectual bounties are in knowledge. And nothing is left out of God's mercy and knowledge. Thus, the universe and all the things in it are immersed in the ocean of mercy and knowledge. For example, the cycle of salawat, we know that receive salawat from the Imam of the time, and it showers down upon us in the form of mercy and spiritual knowledge. What is the spiritual hospital? The Holy Quran is, and Nur Maulana Shakri Malusini Hajri Imam is the spiritual doctor. And one of the names of the Holy Quran is Shifa. Why is it called Shifa? As it says here in 1782, and we revealed in it, the Quran, that which is entirely a healing and a mercy for the believers. So it's really interesting to ponder upon how knowledge, which is not tangible, which is not something we can take physically, becomes a source of healing and a medicine. So, knowledge is heavenly medicine and healing. How? The entire Quran is called the heavenly medicine and healing. As we just saw in this reference, we reveal in it, the Quran, everything and everything entirely a healing and mercy for the believers. So the Holy Quran, that's why, has many names. One of them is Shifa, healing. As we just saw, spiritual hospital, and Hazrat Imam is a spiritual doctor. The other name of the Holy Quran is knowledge, and Hazrat Imam is the fountainhead of knowledge. Thus, the Quran, meaning healing, meaning knowledge, because everything with respect to knowledge gives healing and helps us to progress, right? So, therefore, whenever a wise mu'min will have recourse to Quranic medicine, namely Quranic knowledge and wisdom, he will certainly be enriched with the gems of the bright teachings and guidance of the inner and spiritual health and protection. So some of the examples in the Holy Quran that show us sickness and health are Surah 2, Ayah 10, submission and faith, which is health. Opposite to that is unbelief. Healthy belief is accepting oneness of God. Unhealthy is polytheism, light and darkness. So again, this reminds us also of the cycle of salwat, right? Special knowledge, because it is knowledge, it is the blessings of the Imam of the time that take us out of darkness unto the light. Light of what? Light of knowledge, light of wisdom, light for our soul and our intellect. So intellect, knowledge, and understanding, those are all healthy elements to have. Guidance, and opposite to that is ignorance. And the Quran actually complains in many verses and says that we do not reflect enough. And so that would also be a very interesting commitment to make, that we will take some time out of our lives, maybe make a routine that whenever we go to Jamaat Khana, listen to a farman and reflect upon it. I can assure you it's a very sweet, productive feeling. So where does knowledge come from? Knowledge comes from the fountainhead of intellect. And knowledge comes from the treasures of Allah, which is Surah Fatir 21. Everything comes from the treasures of Allah. And there is not a thing but its treasures are with us, and we do not send it down according to the known measure. This again is a reminder for us, right? That the more eager we are to learn knowledge, the more disciplined we are, or the more we enjoy seeking knowledge, researching, the more we get. So it is a really beautiful principle, which is opposite to the physical treasure. The physical treasure will reduce. The more it's given out, the more it will reduce. But here, spiritual treasure, the more knowledge we give, the more knowledge we get. Yeah. This divine law is crystal clear, that all things related to knowledge relate to intellect through knowledge, recognition, marifat, soul and subtle body. Everything is from the divine treasure. Thus, to obtain the chosen things of the treasures of God, one has to follow the guidance of the Imam of the time, seek knowledge, certainty, and progress all the way up to the level of recognition. So it's beautiful here, right? That God is telling us we have the potential, we have the means whereby we can seek any and all of the divine treasures. And how can we get the divine treasures? By obeying the guidance of the Imam of the time, seeking knowledge of certainty. So what is this knowledge of certainty? Yeah, which then helps us to progress all the way to our final destination, which is to merge in Nur. What is the importance of knowledge? Knowledge is neither a medicine nor a nourishment. It means only to know. Yet it transforms us, it transcends us. Now, how is healing through knowledge possible? Knowledge is both medicine for spiritual diseases and nourishment for the intellect and soul. There is no curative method in this world which is not indebted to knowledge and wisdom, and which can continue without knowledge, the book and teacher. This diagram is the discovery of the greatest 21st century poet and spiritual scientist, Allama Nasiruddin Hunzai. It is so revolutionary because it tells us how we can progress all the way to merge with the nur of He who is above all else, right? So it's giving us the levels. The first world is the world of wakefulness, Nasut. Second world of imagination, we can call it Malakut, world of dreams, Jabrut, and world of spirituality, Lahut. But in this diagram of the personal world, step by step, we know how we can progress because remember from Ilmul Yaqeen, we go to Ainul Yaqeen and so on and so forth. Wisdom then is the folded universe or is the essence of knowledge and has abundant good and unique medicines for inner diseases. We all know our constitution where Nur Maulana Shah Kamal Hussaini Hazrat tells us that it is his divine intellect that informs and transcends the human intellect. And what is the difference between wisdom and knowledge? So we just identified, right, that wisdom actually is the essence of knowledge. And wisdom helps us to distinguish between right and wrong. So why are there wells of knowledge? Physical science and spiritual science are the miracles of God. External science is related to the external world, afaq, and internal science is related to the spiritual world, anfus. Anfus actually is the personal world because all the miracles take place in our personal world. This is the place where we have the world of particles, and this is the place where there is oneness at the level of Lahut. And the external world and the internal world, the knowledge of both these worlds are actually necessary to have success in the hereafter. So God's special promise and the Quranic prophecy is being fulfilled in this present time, where God said that He is going to show His signs in afaq, external world, and anfus. So external world, we all know, right? That today we are not only reaching the moon, but we are going all the way towards Mars. And here on planet Earth, we are actually having amazing AI technology where there is artificial intelligence for senior citizens and that interact so that they are not lonely or if they are in need of medication, small tasks like that. There is actually an AI that is doing all these functions. So we see that possibilities are endless of how our world is transcending, right? And how God has fulfilled or is fulfilling His promise of showing us all His signs, all the treasures, not just through physical revolution, not just through physical discoveries, but also within our soul. There are generally two types of knowledge. Explicit knowledge can be completely shared through words and numbers, such as formulas, mathematics. Tacit knowledge is gained through experience and practice. It cannot be expressed by symbols, but is transferred through verbalization. So how can we relate to these two within the Ismaili perspective? And then we have, from the religious point of view, we have ilm shariat, which is the exoteric knowledge. And then we have ilm hakiki, hakikat, ilm hakikat, esoteric knowledge, which is Imam's guidance through direct blessings for us as his murids. This is also the knowledge of mu'jizai ilm laduni, given knowledge. You remember our beloved 48th Imam, Azamul A'imma, our souls be sacrificed for him again and again, has told us that there are two things: material intelligence and spiritual enlightenment. So this is ilm laduni, which is given, okay? And we have encompassed everything in the manifest. Imam, my time is up. Knowledge of certainty. What is certainty? Why is knowledge of certainty different from material knowledge? Knowledge of certainty is different because it is knowledge based on proofs. It's knowledge that removes all the doubts. Okay, so knowledge of certainty is ilmul yaqeen. And look at this amazing ayah where God says that it is knowledge of certainty which helps us to see hell. What is hell? Ignorance, right? And then once we see this, we then go on to the Ainul Yaqeen, which is the eye of certainty. Okay, so this ayah shows us that physical progress is not possible unless somebody attains the knowledge of certainty about spiritual and intellectual favors and bounties of paradise. Knowledge of certainty helps us to actually recognize realities of the paradise, which are leading us to the eye of certainty. Okay, very quickly, I want to just mention to you that, you know, when the sun rises, the sun is rising, but before the sun rises, notice the light that's already there. It is so amazing and so beautiful light, right? So the point I wish to share is that both sunrise and sunset, before the sun is rising and sun is setting, there's already light. And that is an indication that knowledge also is hidden as well as manifest. Okay, so knowledge of certainty is necessary, and we should have correct beliefs in the light of knowledge so that we can fight our carnal soul and all the doubts and ambiguities are removed. And this is healing because it gives us a healthy inner environment which helps us to maintain high ambition and closeness to He who is above all else. Eye of certainty is also very important because at this level, divine mercy descends in the form of dazzling light. What are these dazzling lights? They are actually bright guidance and they encourage us to move forward, but they're also a trial. And at this stage of Ainul Yaqeen, the spirit and spirituality of the Holy Quran, the great miracles of the Quran, all these can be imagined within our personal world and also be seen. And these dazzling lights are the torrential clouds of light, shining waves, trees from which each of the leaves bursts into rainbow-like light, and so much more. And then the truth of certainty is at the level of the pearl of intellect, which is the highest level. And in between, of course, there are so many layers. And as the Holy Quran itself says, Lo, this is the truth of certainty. So it is related to the highest realization. And it is at this point, the pearl of intellect, where knowledge comes to a completion. Because at this point, knowledge completes, there's nothing else remaining, because the Salik, who is now going through the spiritual journey towards the completion, becoming an Arif, merges with the Nur of the Imam of the time, so there is nothing left to be known. Everything becomes known. Level, and in between, of course, there are so many layers. And as the Holy Quran itself says, Lo, this is the truth of certainty. So it is related to the highest realization. And it is at this point, the pearl of intellect, where knowledge comes to a completion. Okay? Because at this point, knowledge completes, there's nothing else remaining, because the Salik, who is now going through the spiritual journey towards the completion, becoming an Arif, merges with the nur of the Imam of the time, so there is nothing left to be known. Everything becomes known. The gates of knowledge says, I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its gate. I am the house of wisdom and Ali is the door. So today, Nur Maulana Shakir Malasini Hazri Imam is the gate of knowledge, is the city of knowledge, because in this cycle of spirituality, we don't have physical hududeens, right? All the ranks are merged in Nur Maulana Shakir Malasini Hazri Imam. I hope this gave you some nutrients of knowledge. Thank you, Ya Ali Madad.
Thank you, Yasmin. I will just focus on importance of knowledge as the topic suggests, that why it is very important. Basically, when we say that knowledge is important, we all know knowledge is important, and Yasmin has highlighted importance also knowledge. So all of the hadith and Quranic ayat and different books which we read always suggest that this is the important portion in our life, and also this has some results, because we have seen that the countries who are progressive, who are developed, and we see the countries who are not very developed, not very progressive, it's the difference is because of the progress in knowledge. So in Quran and in Hadith and in Farman also, we are always taught that actually what is the purpose of life, what is the meaning of life. So knowledge gives us the meaning of life and the purpose of life. Like Yasmin has also shared this, and in one of the ayat that says that, in one of the hadith that says that kuntu kanzan makhfiya fa ahbabtu a'rifu fa khalaqtul khalq. God says, this is the Hadith Qudsi, and Hadith Qudsi are the part of actually the God saying, but they are not the part mentioned in the Quran. So therefore, it is called Hadith Qudsi. So God says that I was hidden treasure and I wanted to be recognized. So I created Khalq, and Khalq means not this physical world, but actually the personal world, human beings, so that I may be recognized. So from this hadith, we actually see that the purpose of creation, a purpose of coming to this world, a purpose of coming to this world for a human or a personal world or a alam shaksi, is to gain a knowledge, is to gain recognition. And recognition are at three levels, which we already have said, that first level of the recognition will focused on ilm, focused on knowledge. So when we say knowledge, it means that all kind and all sorts of knowledge, but particularly where in hadith and where in Quran it says ilm, that means religious knowledge and spiritual knowledge. So in hadith where there is a term which is called ilm or alim or allama, it all means religious knowledge, and it all means spiritual knowledge. And so these knowledge, which is ilm, and ilm in our tariqah is basically, in Islam in fact, and in our tariqah is basically for recognition and for achieving the meaning of life, that why we are here and why we are in this world, to recognize a great soul and recognize our own soul. So this is a process. We go through a process, and that process is actually acquired through little knowledge, step by step knowledge, and then a progressive knowledge will occur. And recognition or ma'arifat. So recognition is basically ma'rifat that will be achieved through gaining the knowledge, and that's why it is related to Arif. Recognizer is Arif, recognition is Marifat. And according to Hadith and according to a lot of saying, that those who recognize himself recognize his Lord. So it's the meaning of life, the purpose of life for coming to this world is the recognition of our own soul, is the recognition of Imam's soul, is the recognition of Allah's soul, because we are very much connected to the higher soul. We are very much connected to Nafse Kulli. So when we recognize our own soul, our own nafs, that will help us recognizing Imam Zaman's soul or Nafse Kulli. So there are the level of recognition. So and the level, the one who recognize more of his soul, recognize more of his Lord. So the more knowledge is being gained, there will be more recognition and there will be more marifat we get of our soul and also of Imam Zaman. So there are a level of recognition, there are a level of marifat that will be achieved through knowledge, through ilm. Knowledge, when we call knowledge, it means ruhani knowledge, spiritual knowledge, or religious knowledge, and that is from the fountainhead, which is the true source of knowledge. So the first level of knowledge recognition is through knowledge, which is ilmul yaqeen, knowledge of certainty. As I already mentioned, that what are the results of acquiring knowledge? If we see in this world, developing countries and underdeveloped countries, the level of progress in the field of life, like science, technology, arts, there are multiple areas where all those fields are very much progressive. So it gives the progress. The more you have the knowledge, the more we have the knowledge, more people have the knowledge, more is the progress. So is this progress is only for this world only? Why? Because if a person is, like, now we know that a person has a body, has a soul, and has an intellect. So there are three levels we have. So we have a body, and acquiring physical knowledge is for body and for this physical world. So in the similar way, we also have a soul and we also have intellect. So for those soul and intellect, what we have for us, and for soul we have ibadat, and for intellectual progress we have religious knowledge. And for the religious progress, we all know that it comes from Shariat and Tariqat, Haqiqat and Marifat, and within that all four levels, there are multiple levels of the knowledge in each of the four levels. And each of the four level has something for us to do the spiritual progress. So now we can say, and it is now a law or a kulia, we say that spiritual progress is not possible without ilmul yaqeen or without the knowledge of certainty, because the spiritual and intellectual favors and the bounties are of bihishti knowledge, or are of paradise. So ilm means spiritual knowledge, and in Quranic ayat it is says that kalla lo ta'lamuna ilmul yaqeen lataraunal jahim. Nay, if you knew the knowledge of certainty, you would have certainly have seen hell. So that means that if we have knowledge, then we will be able to decide what is hell and what is paradise. So that means that with the knowledge and the true knowledge and the spiritual knowledge, knowledge which is coming from the fountainhead of the knowledge from the Imam of the time, which we call it Ilmul Yaqeen, we can recognize hell, and then also we can recognize Bihisht, or we can recognize paradise. So from here in this world, we will be able to recognize hell and Bihisht, hell and paradise. So that means that Jihalat, which is ignorance, basically is hell. People are saying that hell, they give a kind of scenery of a hell where the people will be burned, and there are a lot of like punishment will be there. It is not such a physical hell which Smiley and our Tariqah is believing in. It is the hell that till now also there are few people who are devoid of spiritual knowledge or ilm, then they are in hell. Currently, they are in the hell because they are ignorant of um, believing in Imam Zaman. They are ignorant of Noor, so they are in some level of hell. And I'm not going into the details of the level of hell and the level of Bihish, but at least they are in some levels where they are in hell because they do not have this kind of knowledge which we call ilmul yaqeen. So only ilmul yaqeen will protect us from ignorance. Ilmul yaqeen will protect a moment from hell or from ignorance, and ilmul yaqeen will help us in going through the paradise and the ranks of the paradise. Though there are a lot of the ranks of the hell and lot of ranks of the paradise. So if hell can be seen through knowledge of certainty, then definitely paradise can be seen too. Now there is a ayat where Hamilane Arsh, great angels who bear the throne, they pray for this world and they pray for the whole humanity all the time. And they say that Rabbana wasita kulla shay'in rahmatan wa ilma. They're saying that they see knowledge in the exterior and interior of everything of the universe and the existence, because of which they say, "Oh Lord, you embrace everything in mercy and knowledge." And Yasmin has already highlighted this ayat that everything is immersed in the ocean of mercy and knowledge. So if we see that there are three circles, like in our personality and in our personal world and in our this exterior world or maybe world of religion, we see that there is a body, a physical sense, and there is a soul. We all have a soul, and there is a universal soul, and there is a universal intellect also. So for the body, we all know physical knowledge and all those kinds of knowledge, like artificial intelligence and all those computer intelligence. They are the knowledge which help us progress, which helps a physical world and all the bodily progress, a physical progress. Similarly, there is a circle which is a universal soul, and we all have our own soul, which mercy is there, and a knowledge of mercy is important. But there is an outermost circle, which very important circle, and which is a universal intellect that goes through or that gets through ilm. So mercy is a attribute to the soul, and knowledge to the intellect. And if we see the ranks, universal intellect as the highest rank, then there is universal soul, universal intellect as the highest rank, then beneath that there's a universal soul, and then beneath that there is a body. So it is very important for every wise person or hakim or to get a wisdom. It is important to acquire knowledge at any cost, particularly religious knowledge to understand the meaning of life, why we are here, and to recognize Imam of the time and recognize our own soul and recognize what we are and from where we come from, and what is the controlling universal soul and universal intellect are. And if we see those, though there are, these are circle which I have made a diagram which sees that they are independent circle, they are not independent circle, they are overlapping also. And we can understand that these are the ocean, these are the circle, and there are knowledge of physical world, spiritual world, and intellectual world, but they are combined also. And one example which Allama Sahib has given in Ilm Ki Seedi was very interesting, that we can understand the circle that if a person has made a large piece of iron and that has kept in a fire and it becomes red. So, and if we were to understand, then this sphere is a physical universe, heat is the soul, and the light is the intellect. So though we are immersed in the Noor, all of us are immersed in the Noor, and soul, universal intellect and universal soul is actually penetrating from all of us. So they are penetrating within us. So this penetration basically is the heat, and that penetration when brings light, then this is the intellect. So this is just an example to understand that how these circles can be understood by a physical body, universal soul, and universal intellect. So basic terminology of ilm is therefore we called ilm is a nur, because it create a light, and ilm create a light. Knowledge of certainty create a light because it shows the path. It shows the path towards the imam of the time. Ilm shows the path to go into the paradise. It shows what is ignorance and what is knowledge, so we can take the path which is a correct path and which is the path of the imam and Pagambar and Dais. So therefore, ilm is also called a nur. Ilmul yaqeen is also called a light that gives a moment to walk on a straight path. And at the highest level, so when we talk about ibadat, there is ibadat which we do, regular prayers, ginan, manqabat, the tasbih. That is a kind of ibadat which is a spiritual ibadat, but that is a one ibadat is also ilmi ibadat. So currently we are talking about ilm or discussing any Quranic ayat or discussing any ilmi thing, then that means that we are doing ilmi ibadat. Similarly, if we have khidmat, there are three levels of khidmat. One is physical khidmat. We use our body, we use our physical sources to do good to the people. Then this is a physical khidmat. There is Ruhani khidmat also, where we ask people to join in for ibadat and they help in the ibadat. And then there is ilmi khidmat also, where we do something for directly or indirectly to the progress of ilm. So whatever we are doing to give ilm to the jamaat or ilm to anyone, that means that this is the ilmi khidmat we are doing. Similarly, riyazat or struggle, any struggle we do for taking the ilm is ilmi struggle, ilmi riyazat. Then if there is a healing through Quran, healing through knowledge is also ilmi shifa. Why this is healing? Because any confusion that that we have in our mind, if that confusion is being cleared through the knowledge, we are in peace, and we feel that we are on the right path. We feel that we are in the paradise, and we feel a very peace and happy, the inner happiness when we get from those small ilmi point. Even if we remember some ayat and remember its meaning, we feel good in ourselves. So that means that is the healing which we are getting from those ilmi points, from those ilmi ayats, or from those pondering points or any thinking points. And then there are ilmi ranks also. The one who knows a lot is at the highest level, and one who knows less, they are at the level below that. Knowledge can also be understood by comparative examples, or we called example by asdad, or opposites, or comparative similitudes. And these are very well given in Allama Sahib's books, that a term called certainty and doubts. So we all have heard this Surah Baqarah, ayat number 1, Alif Lam Mim, Zalikal Kitab La Raiba Fi. So La Raiba Fi, jisme koi shak nahi. The book that has no doubts. So, and that is Maula Ali. As Maula Ali has said that I am that book in which there is no doubt. So no doubt means there are no doubts, means there is certainty and there is truth. So truth and doubt, or certainty and doubts. So that certainty and doubts can only be understood through knowledge. If we have knowledge, then we can clear the doubts. Once we clear the doubts, that means we are certain and we are satisfied, we are happy. So in this Surah Baqarah, it is said, Alif Lam Mim is that a book in which there is no doubt. It means the speaking Quran. Imam of the time, Mullah Ali said that I am that book. So Imam of the time is actually the fountainhead of the knowledge. And um, after Fana Fillah, entering into the spiritual recognition, we can gain all the treasure of the knowledge and the certainty of the knowledge, from certainty of knowledge to Ainul Yaqeen, eye of the certainty, and Hakul Yaqeen. These are the highest level we can get it after clearing all our doubts and after having Fana fil Imam. Then there is ignorance and knowledge. We have talked a lot about ignorance is hell and knowledge, true knowledge. When we call knowledge, that means true knowledge. So true knowledge is Bihish, and ignorance is also a disease. To cure that disease, we can gain true knowledge. Disease are the doubts, and true knowledge will clear all those doubts. And God revealed that Quran is a shifa, Quran is a medicine and cure for the disease. That means in the Holy Quran there are a lot of things which talks about knowledge, and there are, I have given few ayats also that talks about knowledge, how it is, how it Quranic ayat are healing for a mankind. Then there is one ayat in Surah 39 by 9, which says that, O Muhammad, can those who know and those who don't know be equal? Sorry, am I audible?
Yes, you're okay. You can continue.
Oh, okay. So those who know and those who do not know are equal. That means that ignorance means those who do not know, and because of their disbelief, because of their iman, because of their not believing in the imam of the time, and those who know cannot be equal. So those who do have the knowledge and those who do not have the knowledge, they are not equal. So, and those who have the knowledge means that foundational knowledge, knowledge of iman, knowledge of belief. So it means the believer and non-believer cannot be equal. Believer of the true knowledge and non-believer of the true knowledge, they are not equal. So these comparative similitudes separate those who have knowledge and those who do not have the knowledge. Other is rich and poor. In one of the ayat, I have not mentioned the ayat number, but Allah has said that Allah has certainly heard the taunt of those who say, truly Allah is poor and we are rich. So this is basically people who believe in Allah and people who believe in Prophet. They will not say that Allah is poor and we are rich. Those who are disbelieving of Prophet Muhammad and those who are disbelieving of Allah, they can think and they can say. And it is not they are saying to Allah, but they are saying this to Imam of the time, and they are saying this to Holy Prophet. There are many people who says that Prophet Muhammad is poor or Imam is poor. So they see the worldly things, the worldly knowledge, and one can say that Imam is poor or Allah is poor. This is mentioned in Quranic ayat, but this they are looking at only the physical thing. And Allah says that I know that they are taunting us because they don't know the knowledge of certainty, because they do not have their knowledge, and we shall certainly record their word and their act of slaying the Prophet. So they were actually slaying prophets of that time. And now also we see that people say a lot of things about Imam of the time because they do not have this eye of certainty or a knowledge of certainty. That's why in their view, in their mind, there are some problem in Imam of the time. And Allama Sahib shares that Ahle Kalam koi bhi gareeb nahi, Amir ilm adab hai garche maal nahi. Like those who are knowledgeable and those who are wise people and are writer, they are not poor at all. Yes, they are, maybe they are poor in the sense of finance, but physically, but in ilm and in adab, they are very rich people. Then again, blind and sighted. So are blind and the sighted equal to one another? This is one another ayat, that are the darkness. That means that is darkness and light equal? So means who are the blind and who are sighted? So if somebody is blind naturally, Allah will not blame them that that person is blind if he is or she is born blind. So this is the blindness, which is a blindness of ignorance. And sightedness is the sight of or the light of or the noor of ilm. So if someone has not attained the eye of certainty or at least the knowledge of certainty, in reality he is blind because he has not achieved that noor or he has not got that sight to actually see all the external and internal of the soul and the intellect. So vision, and there are two terms, one is basarat and other is basirat. So vision or the external eye is basarat, inner eye is basirat. So you may have basarat, we may have the sight, but we may not have the inner eye, or which is the insight. Then there is a blindness of heart. So it is mentioned in Quran that, and he who is blind in this world will be blind in hereafter and far astray from the right way. So again, for the blindness, if a person is blind in this world, he will be blind in the next world also. So if a person is born blind, then like what Allah is doing with that person, that he suffers so much in this world, and in the next world also that person will suffer. So actually this is saying that this is the blindness of heart. We do not seek, or we do not seek, or maybe we do not do something to gain that insight of insight to gain the knowledge of certainty. And there is one another, I think, ayat, whoever does not follow the true guide becomes benighted, means unenlightened, and he does not have insight, inner eye, in this world and in the next. So there are ranks also according to the knowledge. As we know, the teaching of Quran and Hadith and Ginan, there are always grades. There are always the darajat and the ranks. Even in knowledge also there are ranks. So in hell also there are ranks. In paradise there are ranks. We all have ranks. That ranks basically is dependent on acquiring the knowledge and the action. So there is a hadith where Holy Prophet says that indeed we, the group of prophets, speaks to the people according to their intellect. So that means that there are ranks. So what Prophet Muhammad was saying at that time, we now Imam will not say the same thing, though the meaning will remain the same. But since the time and the intellectual abilities now has progressed, so Imam Farman and other knowledge will be different in a scientific manner. So if we give example of the Prophet Muhammad times, the example would be different. Today, examples to learn or to gain knowledge would be different, because now we give example of computer, we can give examples of mobile phones. At that time, there were examples of different items. So as the time passed, the Prophet speaks to the people according to their intellectual level and according to their understanding. And one of the Allah's name is Zil Ma'arij, the Lord of Ladder. So what does ladder mean? Ma'arij, which is the plural of Miraj, means the ladder of ranks. So ladder means that rank one after the other. More you cross the knowledge, the more you go up and step by step in the field of knowledge. And then once you pass the knowledge of certainty, then you will get knowledge of eye of certainty, and then the action of certainty. To progress the knowledge and action, there is always a trial. And this is also very important, that knowledge, particularly any knowledge, the true knowledge, is not devoid of trial. There are always trial of physical trial, maybe trial of not understanding, trial of confusions. So these are all trials one should pass to gain the true knowledge. And every trial, as in one of the ayat, it says that every trial is for the elevation of the rank. Ilm also is for piety, for peace and the piety, pakizgi. So the sublime purpose of piety is knowledge. And in one of the ayat, Allah says that, and whoever fears Allah, He will make a way out for him and provide him with sustenance from where he does not reckon. That means the another translation which Allama Sahib has said that, and he who is pious in true sense, God makes a makhraj. Makhraj means the fountainhead of knowledge, or a fountainhead for him, and provides him with the sustenance of knowledge from he does not even thought of. So if there is a niyat, and if we do ibadat and clear our heart and do struggle, then we will get knowledge from the fountain where we have not even thought of. So that's because Imam has created that makhraj. Imam has created that fountainhead of knowledge from where we can get all those knowledge. Makhraj means the fountainhead of knowledge, and the hidden knowledge of Quran and Hadith. So Quran and Hadith, there is a physical form also, but there is a Tawili knowledge of Quran and Hadith also, and that Tawili knowledge is given from and is given through that makhraj, which is the fountainhead of the knowledge. And we do not sometimes expect that these will come from anywhere, but it will come if there is Allah's will. And there is a ayat where Allah is saying that Allah will provide risk for him from where he does not even thought of. So the term risk is not zahiri risk. Like at the time of Maryam, there is one ayat said that Maryam was getting risk from Allah, and Maryam is saying, somebody asked that from where you are getting this fresh fruit. Maryam said that these fruits and this food is coming from Allah. ये अल्लाह की तरफ से risk आया है. And we also just a general view that risk जो है वो अल्लाह की तरफ से आता है. So this risk actually is basically the risk of knowledge. So wherever Quran terminology of risk is mentioned, though this can be of a physical risk, physical food, but it is also mentioned that this is the tawil and the ilm of certainty. And even if you see Mano Salwa, where the Isas spread, there is a Isa, at the Isa's time, people says that we need food from Asman, so that means that this was also the intellectual knowledge, intellectual ilmi knowledge. So food for soul, if it is ibadat, then the food for intellect is, it's a knowledge. This is not the ibadat, it's the food for intellect is knowledge. But which knowledge? True knowledge and knowledge of certainty. So I think there are 2 more slides left. So Imam Sultan Ahmad Shah has said that now I will fight with Zulfikar of knowledge and wisdom, and not with Zulfikar of steel. So you see, uh, before Imam Sultan Ahmad Shah, there was a time where Imam and Imam's murid were actually, or even at the Prophet time and other Dori Sattar time, we were using Zulfikar, which is of steel, lohe ki talwar, but now this is the talwar of ilm or Zulfikar of ilm and wisdom. So since now this is the cycle of Qiyamah or age of Tawil, that means Imam is now engaged in the war of Tawil and against the ignorance. Against ignorance means we all will be acquiring this knowledge, acquiring ilm, and if we are acquiring this ilmi knowledge for our soul, that means we are helping Imam in fighting this with the Zulfikar. And there is a term which is la yanfa, means things which does not benefit. Holy Prophet says that ए अल्लाह मैं पनाह मांगता हूँ चार चीजों से, गैर मुफीद इल्म से, ऐसे दिल से जिसमें खुदा का खौफ ना हो, अपने नफ्स से जो सैर ना हो, और ऐसी दुआ जो कबूल ना हो. Like Holy Prophet has said that I seek refuge from you of four things. From a knowledge which does not benefit, means that Holy Prophet is saying that there are knowledge in the world which is actually not the true knowledge. So Holy Prophet is saying that मैं पनाह मांगता हूँ, I seek refuge from all those knowledge which is not the true knowledge. A heart which is not submissive, a soul which is not spectable, and a prayer which is not heard. So this is also hadith. The point I'm making here is the hadith is actually saying that there are people in this world who claim to have knowledge, whereas their knowledge is not useful because that true knowledge will not take us through the meaning of life and will not take us to understand our soul. So this is the last slide in conclusion that Hazrat Imam Jafar Sadiq ने फरमाया तीन किस्म के लोग हुआ करते हैं, आलिम, मुतअल्लिम और बेहुदा शख्स. फिर इमाम ने मजीद फरमाया तीन अशखास में से एक हो जाओ, या आलिम हो जाओ, या मुतअल्लिम हो जाओ, या अहले इल्म के दोस्त हो जाओ. खबरदार चौथा मत हो जाओ, वरना तुम अहले इल्म से दुश्मनी में हलाक हो जाओ. So this is concluding Imam Jafar Sadiq's farman, that Imam Jafar Sadiq has said there are three kind of people: learned, which is alim; student who takes ilm; and a while who is behuda person. And Imam again said that be learned one or be alim, be muta'allim or a student who takes knowledge, or the lover of the people of knowledge, but do not be the fourth one. And who is the fourth one? Who create hatredness for the people of knowledge. So because then that will be very dangerous if we create something against the people of knowledge. So Imam has said that in those three kinds, be one, and we can change. Sometimes we become students, sometimes we become learned one, sometimes we become the lover of knowledge, but do not become the fourth one who is against the true knowledge or against the people of the true knowledge. And Imam, there's one hadith, I think says that he who walks on the path of knowledge, Allah makes him walk on the path of paradise, and indeed the angel being pleased with him spread their wings for the seeker of knowledge, and those who are in the earth and those who are in the heaven seek forgiveness for him. So this is basically the importance of knowledge, and which kind of knowledge? True knowledge coming from the fountainhead of the Imam of the time and the Tawili knowledge of the Hadith in the Quran.
Thank you, Rubina Saiba and Yasmin Saiba. So if you would like, we can begin with some questions that have come through the chat.
Sure.
Sure. So the first question is, if Maulana Hazar Imam is the door of knowledge at the present time, then who is the house of wisdom? Is it assimilated in the Imam?
Yeah, because at that time, like at the Prophet time, there was a Prophet and Ali. Walayat was separate, but now Walayat and Imamat is in one embedded. So embodied kind of hudud. So there are every hudud and each had is the Imam of the time. So Imam is the gate, and within Imam there is a knowledge, and one can acquire while having fanafillah or fanafil Imam.
Okay, thank you. There is a question about Hakul Yaqeen. So they're asking if Hakul Yaqeen in Dua part 3 refers to Allah when we call Allah the Malikul Hakul Yaqeen. So then how can we say that the Quran is Hakul Yaqeen? I'm not sure if you said Quran is Hakul Yaqeen, but when we were speaking about the levels of knowledge, there was one of them which is Hakul Yaqeen. So I think they're trying to understand is how we can say that is Hakul Yaqeen, but in the Dua we refer to Allah or God as being the Hakul Yaqeen.
Yeah, so he is the Malik of Hakul Yaqeen. So he's a possessor of Hakul Yaqeen. We can reach up to the level of Hakul Yaqeen after crossing Ilmul Yaqeen. So once you have ilm of something, once you have the knowledge of the something, there is a theory portion, and then you go for the practical. So when you go for the practical purpose, you see the bounties and the beauties and the noor and the actions of Imam's spirituality. So when you see all with your inner eye, with not this physical eye, but with the inner eye, whatever you have learned through the knowledge in Quran and Hadith, you actually see all those beauties and bounties and spirituality with your eyes, which lies in the Imam of the time. So Imam is the possessor, but we can reach up to that level once we gain that level, or once we go after Ilmul Yaqeen.
Okay, so another question, someone would like to know about the ranks and the trials you were speaking of. So not the ranks, but the trials. Can you give some examples of what trials can look like today in today's world when there's progress in the ranks which is occurring?
So we see trials is everywhere. So whenever a person is, if we see person is progressing, even in the physical world, there are always a trial. Trial in form of objections, trial in form of jealousy, trial in form of difficulties, trial in form of maybe our all nafsani khaishat. Like for example, if I have any confusion of any Quranic ayat, then maybe I can go to sleep because I'm too tired. So there is a trial where my nafs is saying that okay, you are now too tired. Do not do that. You can do it later. So there are simple trials within ourselves also, and there are trials from the outside as well. And within self is more dangerous than outside one, because outside we can even protect, but the trials within ourselves, it is very difficult. Yasmin can say, but these are the trials. I have seen that when people try to give knowledge, then maybe there are some people who may want to go against those knowledge, or who may not want, who may want to create obstacles in spreading those knowledge. So these kinds of trials could happen, and these trials can occur in any point of time, while in physical knowledge also, and in spiritual knowledge. Yasmin, you would like to add on?
You know, like technology can be a hindrance, but it's also a blessing. The most beautiful challenge, as Dr. Rubina said, is personal trials, because you know it's really tough to be disciplined and bypass all these challenges and just soar high. In any challenge, I think if we are mindful of the bird, of the balance between the positive and the negative, because remember, without the positive and negative, there are no results, right? Just like electricity, we see in past tense, but it is when the positive and negative come together that we get a result. So same thing, every time we have a success, there's bound to be a trial. And so I think someone rightly said that, every time you have success, remember that it will be followed by a trial. But every time you have a trial, remember also that it will be followed with a success. If we are mindful of this cycle, we can prepare ourselves to a lesser or greater degree.
Okay, there is a follow-up question to the one that was asked earlier about Haqqul Yaqeen. So they're not very clear about what is the role of the Quran as Haqqul Yaqeen. If you can elaborate about, I believe so that was that what we had said in the session? Was it said that the Quran was Haqqul Yaqeen, or were you talking about stages of knowledge and one of the stages being Haqqul Yaqeen? And then perhaps how is that related to the Quran as being Haqqul Yaqeen? If you can elaborate on that aspect.
Okay, the Holy Quran, the book, the physical book, is not Haqqul Yaqeen, because Haqqul Yaqeen is the highest stage of Ma'rifat, right? So it is only related to the living Nur. So the physical Quran is not by any means at the level of Haqqul Yaqeen. Haqqul Yaqeen is a progressive level. Once we pass through Ainul Yaqeen, once we go through the whole cycle of experiencing, of seeing lights in all different manifestations, we then enter the realm of oneness, or the realm of recognition. That's Haqqul Yaqeen. And Haqqul Yaqeen is related with Gohar Akal, or the pearl of intellect. So at the highest level, Haqqul Yaqeen basically is realization and merging with the Nur, because it's the truth of certainty. There's nothing else. Just like Surah Qasas says that everything perishes but the divine face, right? So everything, knowledge also is in everything. So at that level in Haqqul Yaqeen, everything annihilates in Nur. The example of Haqqul Yaqeen is that first slide I showed. Remember, the idea is there of Haqqul Yaqeen, that you're just merging, you're becoming. I hope that was clear.
Yeah, but they also followed up with asking another question, which is, but isn't the Quran the speech of God himself? So I'm not sure how that would relate to the discussion, or what that was in regards to, by asking, isn't the Quran the speech of God himself? But if you'd like to comment on that.
That like Quran has a lot of examples, as you say. So the tawil of that example is basically ilmul yaqeen. And then when you see all those in front of you, the spirituality, in spirituality, that is anul yaqeen. And when you become those, like you have the stories of all the prophets, stories of Adam, stories of Noah, story of Ibrahim, Musa, you become all those. You become Adam, you experience the all that angels were prostrating Adam. You will be experiencing all those stories is Haqqul Yaqeen. So that your belief becomes so strong that yes, now all those things, all those spiritual progress which all prophet has gained, is now you can also gain. So that's the level. Uh, Tawil of the Quran and Tawil of Hadith is Ilmul Yaqeen, which is in the Quran. The stories, because at that Quran, when the time of the Quran, when Quran was in the Prophet times, all the examples were of their intellectual level. But now we need a Tawil, because this is the Zamana, or a period of Tawil. So we will receive the Tawil through Ilmul Yaqeen. Then we see all those Tawil, and then we experience all those mojizat, or all those spiritual Adam's and Nuh and Ibrahim stories. We are going through all those things. So that is basically Haqqul Yaqeen. So it is not out of the Quran.
Thank you. So yeah, they also followed up with a comment saying, so the Quran then is like God, whom we don't understand as well. So I think here, I mean, I think you've covered that in the sense that we have the Zahir Quran, but that this this is the whole issue, or this is the whole understanding and the beauty of the Ismaili Tariqah and our view that the Imam is the master of Ta'wil. And without the Ta'wil, the Quran can be something which doesn't always agree with our intellect, or vice versa. Our intellect cannot understand how the Zahir of the Quran, not to say that the Zahir of the Quran has anything incorrect, but to understand it with intellect and knowledge, one has to understand the batin and the Ta'wil. And at that level, we can start to say we're moving closer through the stages of knowledge to get to Haqqul Yaqeen. And at that level, where the Quran is what the Quran itself refers to as being in a guarded book, right, that none can touch except the purified. The purified here would be the intellectually purified, the one who have a pure intellect and soul. And at that level, we can understand Quran as Haqqul Yaqeen and gain understanding of Allah and His revelation. Okay, so we can move to another question. I guess in the conversation we mentioned Batini hell. So they want to know, is there also a Zahiri hell or a physical hell?
Simply put, yes, the
yeah.
ignorance in the physical world is the physical hell. Because with ignorance, it's hard to progress or hard to soar, hard to even be happy, because there's no balance or harmony with nature or within.
As far as we read books, particularly of Allama Sahib and other dais, they all are saying that there is no such physical hell where people will be burnt and they will again be born, and then they will burnt all life. So there is no such thing. This is basically ignorance is hell.
Okay, so there is another question relating to Haqqul Yaqeen. This is from a different perspective. And they are referring to the hadith, which says that in paradise there will be a bazaar where there is no buying and selling, but there are pictures of living people. And when you like, you can enter into that picture. So they're asking in relation to that, is Haqqul Yaqeen also considered the same as that market in paradise where you can pick a great soul and become and experience their personality?
Yes,
Yes.
it's the Jaliyats or theophanies.
So these are the possibilities of Haqqul Yaqeen. So a person can reach at the level where we can experience, we wishes that, okay, I want to become Hazrat Adam, or I want to see how Hazrat Adam's miracles were. Then I become Adam and see all the miracles. So that these are the possibilities of ilm. Ilm is so huge, and so there is a so vast possibilities, and market of paradise is one of the possibilities. And that is given that this is the market of shopping. You can shop whatever you want to shop, but experience that personally.
And I think it connects beautifully with the concept of renewal too, right? So it's always ongoing. There's completion and then there's renewal.
Okay, so a question just came in about Ta'wil. So does the Ta'wil of the Quranic ayats only come through our dais, peers, and arafins like Allama Sahib, or do we have examples of Imam giving us Ta'wil and firmans?
Time is the source of or fountainhead of a tawil, but Imam, we have not seen that Imam has taken class and then said, okay, take out this Quranic ayat and now I'm going to explain the tawil of that Quranic ayat. There are hadiths already available. There are quotations of Maula Ali. There are many books available for Imam Jafar Sadiq, Imam Jafar Sadiq and Imam Baqir Muhammad Tawil. Imam Sultan Ahmad Shah has a lot of books where we can relate those Tawil. But the best madrasa or the best university is Imam himself. So the person who inhalate in Imam of the time can get those Tawil. And once that inhalation at the highest level, when that person achieves, what he brings for his people is the Tawil of the book. So He will not take all those Tawili things by himself, but he will write a lot of books so that people of his time and those who want to take ilm, they can take those Tawil. So usually it's a Dai Peer who get up to the level of Fanafil Imam. But the source is Imam.
Thank you. Yasmin Saiba, you had mentioned renewal a few moments ago, so someone would like to know if you can elaborate or explain about this concept of renewal.
Renewal, for example, when we were talking about the bazaar in paradise, right? So let's say that one wishes to know everything about the cycle of Hazrat Ibrahim. So you enter the theophany of Hazrat Ibrahim and you experience the whole cycle. Once that's completed, then you enter into another. So the concept of renewal is best explained with the example of a candle. We see constant renewal of the flame. It's forever changing, right? You see the flame burning and changing. So that's the example of the jaddu, the renewal, where every moment there is a new change. Every moment there is a renewal, just like the cycles in nature, day and night, the sunset, the sunrise. So that would be an example in this case of theophanies, or experiencing one prophet or one cycle, completely becoming it, experiencing it, and then you start all over again. That's why coming to this world for us as Ismailis, it's a beautiful thing. Sayyidina Nasir Khusraw in his, I think in Safarnama, he says that this world is the form, right? And the world of command is the essence. And every time we come to this world, it's a renewal of our experiences. We come not because it's a bad thing, or not because reincarnation is totally obsolete. We believe in manifestations. So wherever there is Imam, there is paradise. Coming to this world is just also renewal, that each time we come, we are renewing our experiences, right? I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and there was a follow-up question to that, but I think it's you just covered it, because they're asking about this process, if this process is it endless, because there's no beginning or end on a circle. So if renewal is coming to Earth or anywhere else and dying again, then that would be endless.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Kayal. Yes. So remember the circle, right? The center is always the Imam of the time. The center is the center, but the circumference it's forever expanding. Just like Imam Jafar Sadiq said, what you think God is not. What you think God is not, God is. So just to bring this idea of the center, which is the Nur of the Imam of the time, is always the center, but the circumference forever changes, and that's also renewal and movement within it, right?
Okay, there's a question addressed to Yasmin Saiba. You had mentioned that our creative process is linked to knowledge. Can you elaborate on this, and how can one lead in knowledge?
Yes, absolutely, because knowledge is a process, and so is creativity. It's a process. The more we acquire knowledge, the more we put knowledge into practice, the more it will expand. Same thing with creativity. How is knowledge linked with creativity? The more knowledge we have, the more we can expand. And that's the link, that's the connection. So yeah, the other idea is, if I did not have knowledge, or if I'm not updating my knowledge, then it would be hard for me to come up and do a project on virtual reality, for example, right? Or augmented reality. So that's the connection, that the more knowledge we have, the more we can expand our thinking, the more we can soar higher and higher. Imagine, for example, today, right, that humanity is merging with artificial intelligence. Oh my God, what will that look like, right? And I think there is a farman of Nur Maulana Shah Karim Hussaini Hazri Imam where he says that if the Jamaat was ever to think that the human mind creates rather than having been created, I can tell you now that the happiness I wish to be yours will never touch you. But then we are creating machines which are learning constantly and evolving. So then perhaps there will be a different definition for us human beings, for our brain. I hope that that gave you some idea and hopefully answered your question.
Okay, thank you. And Saiba, you had mentioned the R word, so now we're getting the questions. So the first one is, can you explain the above? We do not have reincarnation, question mark, exclamation point, question mark. And related is, someone's agreeing maybe we don't have reincarnation, but how about Lak Chorasi Nefera with respect to knowledge?
Yeah, reincarnation, actually, I just want to give like brief that we do not believe in, because we all are coming from imams. This is imams who we say, right? So like we all were actually moved from Hinduism to Islam, and there was a bridge which we Imam and our Peer have made to gone from Hinduism to Islamic philosophy. So there was a pull. Our belief was not such fera and going into or becoming dog or becoming cat or becoming animals again, those feras, because that was Hindus' beliefs. And you know, the teaching which our Peer have adopted was just to take those views and then made a bridge. Once the bridge is crossed, we become Muslim and we all become Smileys, then we would not like to move again to those Hindus' philosophies as well. So that was a bridge making knowledge, and that bridge is now, so we have to now turn towards Quran, Hadith, Imam's Farman, and definitely Ginan also. But there are few examples which which were mentioned at that time. That examples may not be very appropriate for this time. So reincarnation is like it's a big, huge topic which cannot be explained in this 2-3 minutes. But we do not believe in reincarnation, but we believe in coming again in our own wish. So once we are linked with Imam of the time, so we won't be able to go back again to become animals or become other things also. So it's a progress, and the life of, like, if I become angry like a dog, then my soul is like a dog. If I do something which is a manifestation of some other animal, then my soul is just representing that animal. In that sense, in this life, we are moving from one animal to another animal in terms of manifestation, but not really become those animals. So I think this is a very brief explanation, but it needs a larger explanation also, and I don't know how much time we have for these discussions.
Okay, so if anyone would like to speak out a question or a comment, they can unmute.
Yeah, Ali Madad. My name is Aziz. I am an interfaith teacher and preacher, so I'd like to share a little bit knowledge about when I talk about, oh, by the way, great presentation, fantastic emphasis on the knowledge, on ilm. And obviously there is some terminology that we need to understand better. There are distinctions between ilm and urf, ilm knowledge and urf intimate knowledge. But you know, that's a separate topic for a separate day. What I'd like to talk about briefly is that if we look at when Imam Ali ended his life, the example he left us behind, there are 4 things in his very brief departing time that he left behind for us. So as we know, he was assassinated as he was leading the prayer in the mosque of Kufa by the Khariji Abdurrahman ibn Muljim. And as Imam Ali, and it was by a poisoned sword. And as Imam Ali was in that state of deep injury, Ibn Muljim was captured and was essentially being subdued with a lot of force, and they had the people had tied his wrists very tight to the point where some blood was spurting out. And in that state of very, very fatal injury, Imam Ali told the people, do not do this to him. Do not abuse him, loosen his bonds, and give him some water. So, and he says that the justice of this attempted murder, eventually did become murder, is to be tried by the qadi, by the judge, not by me, even though I'm the Khalifa at that time, right? So, four things. The first thing that I just mentioned, he said that extend compassion and mercy, Rahman and Rahim. Second, he said, let the process of justice, adl, take place, right? And then, so Imam Ali took about 2 to 2.5 days from that point on when he finally departed the world. And he was asked if he had any regrets. And he said, yes, I have 2 regrets. One is that I did not do as much charity as Allah had blessed me with in terms of resources. And within with the remainder days, he gave away everything. Second is that I did not share as much knowledge, as much ilm as Allah had blessed me with. And in the beginning, when I said that very famous statement, Saluni, Saluni, ask me before you lose me. He said that these 2 things are the greatest regrets that he is going to take to his grave. That A, he did not expend as much charity as he had the capacity. Now remember, Imam Ali actually had the title of Abu Yatama, meaning the father of the orphans. Whenever he found an orphan, he would take them home with him. So he was so compassionate, he was so merciful. And he had so much knowledge, but he said that, this is, I did not share as much as I could have. And this is a regret I will take to my grave. So mercy, justice, charity, and knowledge. So I'm glad we talked about the knowledge part, but these are all the DNA of our faith. Remember, Iblis, Azazil, also had a lot of knowledge, but that was insufficient because he did not have humbleness, he had pride. So knowledge by itself is a great ingredient, but it is not sufficient. Imam Jafar as-Sadiq, the greatest jurist in Islam. In fact, 2 out of the 4 founders of the Sunni ulama of the Sunni schools of thought, Imam Malik and Imam Abu Hanifa, were the students of Imam Jafar as-Sadiq. He was such a great alim. He was a jurist. He was a faqih, right? And he was asked once that what is the shortest definition of Iman, faith? And Imam Jafar as-Sadiq sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that ilm rests on the twin shoulders of ishq and ilm. Ishq is love and ilm is knowledge. However, he said, if you only have ishq, if you only have love, then you're nothing but a diwana, meaning you could love anything without having the knowledge to guide you what you should love. And if you only have ilm, you're nothing but a scholar. You have to have that love for the imam in order for the ilm to be guided and to be channeled in the right direction. So this is a very delicate balance that our love should guide our knowledge and our knowledge should guide our love, inshallah. Thank you for sharing this. You folks are doing a fantastic service, alhamdulillah. I'll pause here.
Thank you. Thank you. These all are very important points. Since our topic was to focus on knowledge, so we had concentrated our talk, or maybe just limited to knowledge only, but definitely what you are saying, these are all very important aspects.
Yeah, and one more last thought I'll add. You folks, somebody mentioned about the renewal there are two words. There are two primary terminology. One is called tajdeed, which means renewal, and comes from the word jadid. In fact, the city of Jeddah comes from that because it was a new city, right? Tajdeed means renewal, meaning not letting something get fossilized and just inactive due to lack of fresh blood. That is allowed in Islam. The other word is reformation, and that's called aslah. Reformation sometimes actually wipes out the origin because it reforms to the point where it loses sight of the origin, the original principle. We are, and when I preach in other houses of worship, and they ask me the difference between the Shia and the Sunni, and I always say that we have a living guide who helps us with the Reformation, who helps us take a principle and provide the latest and the greatest interpretation of it. In fact, Imam Jafar al-Sadiq used to say that we, the Imams, are the ones who provide the interpretation of the Quran في كل المكان وفي كل الزمان, in every time and in every place. So Alhamdulillah, we have a great heritage to uphold. My last parting words is that I do a lot of interfaith teaching and preaching. Unfortunately, I don't see any Ismailis, maybe one or two in the entire United States. I would urge you deeply to take this responsibility of being a da'i, of being an ambassador seriously, and make a difference in your life. You can wipe out an entire room of darkness with just one candle. So please take up this responsibility and be the proud ambassador of the Imam, inshallah. Ya Ali Madad.
Ameen. Wala Ali Madad. Inshallah. Thank you, Aziz. That's absolutely wonderful. I'm sure we will all reflect upon very seriously and make a commitment to outreach as much as we can. Thank you. I just wanted also to emphasize that love is very, very important, because without love, knowledge cannot thrive, knowledge will not fertilize, knowledge cannot grow. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you again.
But we do have one more question in the chat. Would you like to address that right now, or are we over time already?
Sure.
I'm trying to understand the question because it's slightly the way it's worded. I think I got the question. You had spoken about technology in today's times and in the future, but to my knowledge, we don't have more arifin because of this. Mola says information is a flood. So what do you, Yasmin Saiba, think about this? Is it that too much knowledge doesn't make arifins, or is it, I think he's saying if there's too much knowledge, then there will be no arifins. I'm not sure what he means by that, but maybe you can speak to this idea. There's an assumption here that we don't have any more arifin, if that's what the questioner meant, because he says that to his knowledge, we don't have any more arifin because of this. So that might be, one way of thinking, but it's not necessary to say there are no arifin. We might not necessarily have, if by this comment they meant about the ending of the system of the hudud-e-din, of the dawah, of the ranks of hujjat, which is the authoritative or the ranks with authority that one used to have to encounter first physically and go through an intermediary of a man of knowledge like a hujjat or whatnot, then there might be a point there. But this idea that we have no more arifin, I think that one could reflect upon that a little bit further to understand if we do or don't, and what is the opportunity available to us today with this releasing of the knowledge that we have, and very much the fact that Imam has referred to all of us as da'is, meaning if there's potential for everyone to be a da'i, and there's always going to be ranks of knowledge within the category of da'i, then certainly there should be some who would have knowledge, who can share wisdom, share knowledge, to be able to give other da'is in that Jamaat some proper direction to follow.
Yes, very well articulated, Kaya. That's right. There will always be arifin, but as you say, there are levels, right? There comes a point in time that, because it's cyclical, when you have Arif-e-Azam, the supreme Arif, when everything renews itself. But you're right, there will always be levels within. And because Ismailism is living and alive, this cycle, this renewal will forever continue.
And that actually relates back to, I think, the first question we had about the city of knowledge, and if the imam is the door, then in current times, who is the city? And they're asking if the imam now assimilates into that city, or he, takes the city within himself. So I think the question is then, what are the doors? And I believe someone had referenced or had mentioned that the Quran talks about this as well, which it does, which is the verse about that it is not righteousness to enter houses, in the plural, houses from the back, but righteousness lies in fearing God and entering houses through the front, or sorry, through the door, which would be a specific door to enter into the house. And we have the hadith about the house of wisdom. So yes, that city of knowledge, which if the Prophet was speaking about himself, saying that he is the city of knowledge, obviously it can be nothing other than the knowledge of the Quran, because that's what he's referring to, that the knowledge, the divine knowledge that was within, that he had. And to approach that, or to even begin to understand that, one would have to seek at that time, of course, to understand, recognize the rank of Imam Ali, to be able to understand that knowledge, to enter into that city or enter into that house of hikmah. And likewise, in the same way, because it's plural, it says the houses, there's always going to be ranks or people of knowledge, which the Quran refers to in many, many places, of ranks of knowledge that one would have to enter into in that proper way, rather than just, I think, seeking it haphazardly or going to any sources. This is the very threat of the information age, where there's so much information released, and trying to pick and choose, or sort of cherry pick what sounds good from this place, what sounds good from that place, but rather there is a proper method, and that actually is the way of taqwa, of fearing Allah, having conscious of Allah, is to approach the doors which have been provided for us. Okay, so there's no more questions in the chat, and I don't.
Yeah, it's already, I think, 9 o'clock.
Thank you so much for your time and knowledge, and thank you for everyone for joining us today.
Thank you, Ya Ali Madad.
Wala Ali Madad.
Thank you very much.
Yep.